My genius older sister died to save me. From that day on, everyone hated me to the core. My brother demanded that I pay with my life, and my childhood sweetheart broke off our engagement. Even my assistant only treated me as my sister's substitute. But they did not know that my sister was a mission girl who had already completed her task and gone back home. The only one who was going to die was me. Before I died, the system granted me one wish. I bet you want your sister to come back, and then wait for the men to realize how good you were and repent at your grave, right? I shook my head. Since I'm going to die, they shouldn't expect to live either. They can all come down and be buried with me. Chapter 01. The day I received the terminal diagnosis, my mind went completely blank. Instinctively, I contacted my family. Dad declined my call, and Mom blocked me. My brother only responded with one icy sentence. Terminal illness? Olivia, are you deliberately making a scene like this on Nicole's death anniversary? Have you no shame? Oh, right. Today was my sister's death anniversary. We were twin sisters. My sister was an absolute genius, while I was a fool who could not do anything right. 3 years ago, she died to save me. I had been badly injured too, but when I woke up in the hospital bed, Mom stared at me with tear-reddened eyes and said, "Why was it Nicole who died and not you?" I survived. So was that my crime? From that day on, my family, who had never really liked me, came to hate me completely. Every year on my sister's death anniversary, my parents would chant scriptures and pray for her all night, never allowing anyone to disturb them. Thinking about it now, maybe they did not care at all whether I lived or died. Chapter 02. Although I had already been diagnosed, the doctor still told me to come over immediately. I walked out of the office trembling, and tears had already started pouring down against my will. The assistant waiting outside the door froze for a moment, then pulled out some tissues and handed them to me. Sunlight fell across the young man's clean-cut brows and eyes, and his voice was low and gentle. "Wipe your tears. Don't cry." Gabriel. He had once been my sister's senior assistant. Back then, with a brilliant future ahead of him, he gave up a 1 million yuan annual salary and willingly stayed by my sister's side to start a business with her. Everyone was curious why. He only smiled and said, "It is rare in life to meet a true kindred spirit." Later, after my sister died, she left the company to me in her will. Everyone thought Gabriel was going to leave. Unexpectedly, he chose me without hesitation. Even though I knew nothing about the company, he would still patiently help me manage everything and tell me not to be afraid. When my whole family was blaming me, he was the only one who encouraged me to keep going and stayed with me through those unbearable years. He was the friend I trusted most. Thinking of that, I said hoarsely, "I need to go to the hospital. Come with me." Gabriel reminded me, "There's an important meeting this afternoon. You must attend." Lost in thought, I did not stop walking, so Gabriel followed me into the elevator, and his speech suddenly quickened. "Go back. This client was one Nicole spent a great deal of effort securing while she was alive. It's extremely important." Hearing Nicole's name, I felt a stab of pain in my chest. I lifted my eyes and looked at Gabriel. "So what? I think I should be going to the hospital right now." This time, Gabriel reached out and pressed hard against my car door, warning me in a tone that allowed no argument. "How important could your business possibly be? More important than Nicole's life's work? She already died because of you. You have to protect what she left behind. Why do you insist on being willful on the day of her death anniversary? If you do this, you're letting her down." In an instant, it felt as if ice water had been poured over me from head to toe, and my heart turned completely cold. So the reason he had helped me and stayed by my side was still because of Nicole? I took a deep breath and asked him in a hoarse voice, "Back then, why did you choose to stay and help me?" Gabriel hesitated for a moment, then said calmly, "I'm sorry. You're the person in this world who looks the most like her. Go back and meet the client. If Nicole were still here, she would never slack off like you. She was at her most beautiful when she was building her career." Chapter 03. An unprecedented mix of bitterness and fury wrapped itself around my heart, and moisture slowly blurred my eyes. I used all my strength to pull at the car door, but Gabriel's strong arm held it down, unmoving. "So," I slapped him hard across the face, "I'm the one paying your salary right now. If you refuse to listen to me, Then you're fired. Gabriel was stunned. He had never seen me lose my temper so wildly before. He was just about to speak when he suddenly saw drops of blood falling from my nose one after another, as if they would not stop. And his expression changed. Why are you suddenly having a nosebleed? Does it have something to do with why you wanted to go to the hospital? I took the chance to kick him away, got into the car, slammed my foot on the gas, and sped off. Pack your things and get the hell out as soon as possible. If my life had already entered its countdown, then I did not want to keep wronging myself anymore. I wanted to go completely mad to my heart's content. After the car tore into the tunnel at full speed, everything in my field of vision began to blur, until it finally went completely dark. I did not know how much time had passed when a cold mechanical voice sounded by my ear. Olivia. Nicole received a bonus gift after completing her mission, and she transferred it to you. What wish do you have? Only after talking for a while did I understand that Nicole had been a mission girl from birth. That was why she had always been brilliant, smooth in every situation, and had even been able to foresee the future. When she died to save me, she had actually gone home after completing her mission, doing one last good deed before leaving. But even if she could save me for a while, she could not change my fate. I would still die of my terminal illness. I'm guessing your wish is to bring your sister back and make everything whole for everyone. Then, when everyone slowly realizes how good you were and repents at your grave, you'll feel satisfied, right? 99% of love-brained wives make that wish. I fell silent for a few seconds and rejected the suggestion. Why should I be the only one who suffers? If the whole world only starts loving me after I die, I don't want it. Since I'm going to die, they shouldn't expect to live either. They can all come down and be buried with me. Chapter 04. When I regained consciousness, I was already in the emergency room at the hospital. I grabbed the doctor's sleeve and asked how I had gotten there. You forgot? Your fiancé Jonathan got into a car accident in the tunnel, and you ran in to save him without caring about your own life. The ambulance brought both of you here together. A car accident? The tunnel? The moment Jonathan appeared, I already knew he would not look at me kindly. The man looked down at me from above. His messy black hair shadowed a pair of gloomy eyes, and his handsome, cold face was full of contempt. Just as you wanted. Every reporter got photos of you rushing into the tunnel to save me. Everyone outside is talking about how deeply in love we are. Olivia. Using this kind of trick to cling to me is honestly disgusting. I lowered my head numbly. Jonathan and I had grown up together. I had loved him for 10 years. He had never shown me intense affection, but he had also never rejected my active pursuit. And when I proposed an engagement, he agreed. But after Nicole died, he suddenly became like a different person and started distancing himself from me. The engagement we had agreed on no longer counted either. Just the day before, we had still been holding hands. I could not understand what I had done wrong, so I did everything I could to please him and make him stay, as if I had pinned all my unwillingness to accept things onto this relationship, foolishly refusing to let go. But now, I was tired. I just happened to pass by there. Don't flatter yourself. I never loved you that much anyway. Chapter 05. Jonathan frowned instinctively, but very quickly, he decided I was just playing hard to get. As he mocked me harshly, the card on the bouquet of daisies in his arms drifted down and happened to land on my lap. We both froze. It was not a card, but half of a photograph. Jonathan had always been naturally cold. We had never taken a single photo together. Likewise, he had never had one with Nicole either. That photo had originally been taken of the three of us. Jonathan had torn me out of it, turning it into the only photo of him and Nicole together. On the back were the words, "Since I can't have you, I can only protect you forever." No wonder. The accident had been so serious. Yet this bouquet had not been damaged at all. Today was Nicole's death anniversary. Jonathan was going to mourn the woman he loved. He had never loved me at all. Had he? He had only used me as an excuse to get close to Nicole. Once Nicole died, he naturally kicked me aside. Don't touch my things. Jonathan lunged like a madman to snatch the photo back, but he was a step too late. Holding the photo, I lured him closer and tugged at my cracked lips, whispering in mockery, "When Nicole was alive, she never looked twice at you. Now that she's dead, she won't spare you a glance either. You're an even more pathetic simp than I am." Jonathan's eyes suddenly turned red. He raised his hand and slapped me hard across the face. Even he himself was stunned by the sharp sound. Tiny beads of blood slowly seeped from the corner of my mouth, stinging the man's eyes. But he had no intention of apologizing. In a lofty tone, he ordered me, "Olivia, I never once said I liked you. You were the one living in a fantasy. Take down the trending topic you created, and end the engagement as soon as possible." Of course, I moved my backpack aside, revealing the phone that was still live streaming, my eyes icy cold. Once this video gets out, no one online will ever mention our engagement again. I'll give you what you want. Chapter 06. That live stream caused quite a stir. All the netizens who had been following the relationship immediately understood what was going on. They cursed Jonathan for using a backup girl and toying with her feelings, forcing him to flee in disgrace. What followed was a plunge in both companies' stock prices, alarming the board overnight. Our engagement was truly over. Because of my terminal illness, my blood clotting function was very poor, and the doctor had originally wanted to keep me hospitalized for treatment. But I secretly ran back home. According to the setup of my fate, I was bound to die sooner or later anyway. Treatment was useless. Late that night, a pair of large hands clamped tightly around my neck, and the suffocating sensation of impending death jolted me awake from sleep. When I opened my eyes, I saw Victor's face, twisted with rage. "I really underestimated you. How vicious can you possibly be?" I clutched Victor's arm and struggled desperately, but he flung me off with brute force. I crashed heavily into the cabinet door beside the bed. Blood trickled from my forehead drop by drop, but it did nothing to calm Victor's fury. I thought he was angry because of the livestream. I had not expected it to be because of business. A whole series of projects Nicole had arranged before her death had launched this year. And what a coincidence, those projects had snatched away all the resources in Victor's hands, causing his company to lose several $100 million. But Nicole's company was now inherited by me. I had never understood how to run a business in the first place, and now I had no way to defend myself. A dull ache throbbed from the wound, and I simply lay sprawled on the floor and gave up, letting Victor lose his mind as he pleased. The man strode closer step by step, a frightening violence radiating from his whole body. "Since you don't want to behave, I'll make you behave." Victor grabbed me by the collar, half dragging, half hauling me into the car, and drove all the way toward the outskirts. There was Nicole's cemetery. Chapter 07. Since childhood, I had never been loved by my family, and Victor especially despised me. The fool. He was the eldest son adopted by my parents, with a spotless background. After giving birth to us, my mother's health was ruined. Although she was from a wealthy family, she still believed in that old preference for sons over daughters, so she valued Victor immensely and raised him as the heir. Nicole could accompany him in negotiating contracts worth hundreds of millions and help him secure his position as heir, while all I could do was simmer a pot of hangover soup for him after his business dinners and foolishly try to please him. After Nicole died, he locked himself in his room and broke down for several days. Once he regained his senses, he even wanted to force me to die to pay for Nicole's life. I should have been afraid of him, but I no longer cared about anything. Victor dragged me in front of Nicole's tombstone. He forced my head down to the ground in a kneeling position, the veins in his arm bulging from the force. "You disturbed Nicole's peace. Kneel and kowtow to her to admit your guilt." I had no strength left to resist. My forehead pressed against the tombstone as I panted heavily, and a loud buzzing filled my ears. At that moment, though, my mind was unusually clear, and as I hugged the tombstone, I mocked Victor. "You don't hate me. You hate that Nicole is dead. Because now everyone will realize how useless you are. How you've achieved nothing." Victor expressionlessly pressed the burning end of his cigarette onto my hand, scorching the flesh until it split, then kicked me away. Countless unfamiliar gravestones stared at me in the pitch-black night. He gradually walked away into the cold wind, leaving behind a chilling sentence. "Olivia, if you were to accidentally die here tonight, would my Nicole come back to life?" Chapter 08. I had long since passed out, but then I fell into a warm embrace and woke up inside a familiar Maybach. A pair of pale hands handed me a thermos cup, and a voice so hoarse it was frightening said, "Are you all right?" It was Gabriel. When I wondered why he was here, Gabriel trembled as he said to me, "After you left, The professor at the hospital contacted me. He said there was a problem with your test report. At that point, Gabriel could no longer hold back a choked sob, pretending to stay calm. He looked at me and said, "Forget about those clients. Tomorrow I'll go with you to get checked again. There must be some mistake somewhere. It has to be a mistake." The sharp ring of a phone suddenly interrupted the sorrowful atmosphere. Gabriel's hand shook as he pressed accept. And then he accidentally hit speakerphone. His assistant's voice suddenly exploded out. "Gabriel, can you get in touch with Miss Olivia?" Gabriel's heart suddenly stopped. "And he's being resuscitated in the ICU. We can't reach the other family members. Could Miss Olivia come sign the papers?" At the same time, the news that Jonathan had been diagnosed with a terminal illness also exploded onto the trending searches. The system spoke to me in my mind. "Just as you requested. Victor now shares your life. All the suffering you endure will be transferred to him. Jonathan has completely copied your terminal illness. If you die, he dies too. As for this last one, Gabriel, what are you planning to do?" I lifted my eyes and looked at Gabriel. He was anxiously scrolling through his phone screen, looking as if he were working, but his clean lenses reflected what was actually on the screen. It was a photo of him secretly kissing Nicole. He kept swiping back and forth, but in truth, he was just stroking the image of the woman he loved. Over and over again, he was afraid that if I died, there would be no one left in this world who looked more like Nicole. Chapter 09. When Victor was being resuscitated, my parents rushed over, without a word. My mother slapped me and cursed that all of this had started because of me. If I had not caused trouble, Victor would not have come in the middle of the night to punish me, and he would not have exhausted himself to the point that his heart stopped. "You already killed Nicole. If you dare kill my son too, I'll fight you to the death." My father said nothing and stopped my mother. It looked like he was protecting me, but in truth, he was simply a man in a position of power who never showed his emotions on his face. A few hours later, the housekeeper locked me into the study and left me there alone to reflect on my mistakes. It had been like this when I was little too. If anyone in the family said I was wrong, or even if the housekeeper said I had eaten one extra box of ice cream, my father would lock me in the study and make me reflect. Sometimes it was for an entire night. Sometimes it was for an entire summer vacation. This time, my father seemed especially angry. He locked me in the study for 2 days and 2 nights without giving me a single meal, determined to make me learn my lesson. On the 3rd day, my father looked down at me from above and asked whether I knew I was wrong. There's nothing so terrible about being stupid, but if your heart turns rotten. Before my father could finish speaking, I suddenly walked up to him and vomited. After I finished throwing up, I used his tie to wipe my mouth. His gaze changed instantly. "Finished talking? Your words are disgusting enough to make me sick." That conversation ended badly. From then on, 2 more locks were added to the study door. Every day, a bowl of plain porridge would be tossed in through the window, enough to keep me from dying, but not enough to let me live comfortably. I did not cry or make a fuss. Just like when I was little, I curled up by the window, waiting for the sun to rise and set. Only, on the 4th day of my confinement, Victor, who was still unconscious, was sent into the ICU for emergency treatment again. Everything they did to torture me would come back as retribution upon their precious son. Chapter 10. By the evening of the 4th day, I no longer had the strength to get out of bed, and my mind was no longer very clear either. Half asleep and half awake, I suddenly heard many people rushing into the study and taking me away, making me kneel outside the ICU. The Taoist priest my mother had brought pointed a peachwood sword at the center of my brow and chanted incantations, seemingly performing some kind of ritual. After a long while, he said that I had been born inauspicious and that I would bring death upon my family and friends. Victor's critical condition, he said, was because I had harmed him, and the way to break it was to make Victor drink a bowl of my blood every day to suppress the ill omen clinging to me. The moment Victor was transferred out of the ICU, my mother did exactly that. But instead, his condition worsened. On the 2nd day, and then the 3rd day, no matter how much medicine they gave the unconscious Victor, he showed no sign of improving. His cheeks also began to sink in, revealing the signs of someone nearing death. On the 4th day, the doctors rushed into the ward to revive his heart after it stopped beating again. After countless electric shocks, The man finally slowly opened his eyes and, with difficulty, used his fingers to tug at my mother's sleeve. Soon, the doctor brought me 2 large bottles of nutrient solution and began taking meticulous care of me. The system apologized to me. Sorry, host. When Victor was on the verge of death twice, he overheard some of the plot. Now he knows the secret that his life is tied to yours. Just after the system finished speaking, my mother suddenly knelt in front of my bed and gently stroked my forehead. Olivia, you're awake. Are you feeling a little better? Your brother has already been saved, and he misses you very much. Shall we go visit him? Chapter 11. My mother pushed me in a wheelchair into Victor's hospital room. The nutrient solution had taken effect in my body, so Victor's condition had improved a lot as well. He asked everyone to leave, then sat quietly on the hospital bed and gazed at me. Little sister. It was the first time Victor had ever called me that so gently. This serious illness has made me understand a lot of things. What did Nicole's death have to do with you? You may not be smart, and you may not be outstanding, but you are still one of our family. You are my youngest sister. Victor asked me to come closer, and his large hand gently stroked the top of my head. I think I dreamed that you were being bullied, locked up, lonely and in pain. The truth is, when we were children, your brother liked you the most. The hangover soup you made was delicious. I'm sorry, your brother came too late by too many years. From now on, let your brother protect you. All right? This was the family affection I had once dreamed of more than anything. From the first day Victor entered this family, I had imagined that he could be like other people's older brothers, appearing when I needed him most and becoming my guardian. At that thought, I let out a low laugh. Victor laughed along with me, but the next second, I raised my hand and yanked out his 4-line and oxygen tube, and blood immediately spurted out. Chapter 12. Olivia, are you trying to kill your brother? My mother, who had been peeking outside the door, screamed as she rushed in and shoved me hard. I slammed into the medical cart and hit my head heavily against the cabinet, but it did not hurt at all. Instead, Victor took the injury for me, and he fainted on the spot as all the machines began sounding alarms. He did not even have time to stop my mother. Heh, didn't he say he wanted to protect me? How was this not another kind of protection? The doctors and nurses needed to save him, so all of us were driven out of the hospital room. My mother, still furious, wanted to slap me twice again, but this time a large hand stopped her and forcefully pushed her away. That's enough. Olivia is a living, breathing person too. Why do you always have to hit her or scold her? I lifted my eyes and looked over. It was Gabriel. After Victor woke up and withdrew the bodyguards, he finally had the chance to come into the hospital to look for me. With the corners of his eyes red, the man steadied my wheelchair. After hesitating for a few seconds, he finally spoke with difficulty. You all keep saying Olivia should pay for Nicole's life, that she brought death to everyone. But have you ever thought that the one who is actually about to die is her? She doesn't have much time left. Chapter 13. My mother immediately let out a cold laugh and sneered in a mocking tone. Olivia would never bear to die. Back when she was still in my womb, she was already desperately stealing Nicole's nutrients. Even when she was locked up, she still wouldn't starve to death. What kind of spell did she cast on you to make you follow her so devotedly? There are some things I've wanted to say for a long time. You were Nicole's most trusted confidant, and now that you're with Olivia, you still protect her at every turn. Doesn't that count as betrayal? Gabriel had been just about to throw the test report in her face. After hearing that sentence, he no longer dared to. That made sense too. How could he possibly be sincerely protecting me? Sometimes I felt like this world was one giant shabby farce. Every NPC had only one thought: torment me. It did not matter. If I died, they would not get to live either. Gabriel stood there calming himself for a long time before slowly pushing my wheelchair downstairs. He told me not to be afraid, that he had already contacted a professor to arrange treatment for me. This is a terminal illness. It can't be cured. I know. Gabriel carried me into the car and crouched down to tie my shoelaces for me. So I signed you up for an experimental program. There's a research institute overseas that specializes in treating your kind of illness. Rather than waiting to die bit by bit, why not give it a try? I thought for a moment and told him, I heard those experimental drugs all contain huge amounts of hormones. I'll slowly lose my hair, get fat, get ugly, and become less and less like Nicole. Gabriel's hand froze in midair while fastening the seatbelt. After a long while, he forced a smile and comforted me. It's okay, you'll look good no matter what. The next day, I received an apologetic phone call from Gabriel. I'm sorry, Olivia. The registration deadline has already passed. You can't participate in the research program. I'm really sorry, but don't be afraid. No matter what happens, I'll stay with you. This absurd lie made me burst out laughing, and even the system laughed along with me. This man is too interesting. Doesn't he know he'll have to pay the price? You were going to make him. Before the system could finish, Jonathan suddenly called me and said he really wanted to see me. Chapter 14. Jonathan was the youngest son of a prominent family and somewhat famous in the entertainment industry. The news of his terminal illness had caused a huge uproar, and the internet was full of people cursing that the scumbag had finally gotten his karma, forcing him to issue a statement announcing his retirement from show business. His family had spent a fortune trying to treat him, but nothing worked. Like me, he could only wait slowly for death. By the time I arrived, Jonathan was already drinking tea at an open-air restaurant, with a beautiful lawn spread out beyond it. Sunlight poured over the man's incomparably handsome face, and every movement he made was as elegant as a prince out of a comic. He had called me there, but would not say why, only asking me to sit down and drink tea. The wind carried willow fluff through the grass. As he watched it, he suddenly choked up and said, "These past few days, I've been thinking about a lot of things, about you and about Sister Nicole too. Do you remember the first time we met? Back then, Sister Nicole was sitting on the lawn sketching. I ran over and disturbed her, and she shoved me away with one slap. For a very, very long time, it seemed like all I remembered was Nicole, how wonderful she was. How noble, how untouchable. It wasn't until after I was diagnosed that I remembered you were there that day too. That day, you helped me up from behind, put a bandage on me, and asked me if it hurt." I frowned at Jonathan. At that exact moment, he turned to look at me too. In his eyes, glittering as though filled with starlight, there was a trace of sorrow and confusion. I was just about to speak when he said again, "Sometimes I don't even understand my own heart. I'm not sure who I really like. Olivia, can you kiss me one more time, like you did on the day of our engagement, so I can understand my own heart?" I slowly stood up and walked toward Jonathan, using my finger to lift his chin. Chapter 15. Then I slapped him twice, one on each side of his face. "You don't even understand your own heart, and you're asking me? Please get this straight, right now. We're complete strangers with nothing between us. Why should I kiss you? Who do you think you are?" The nerve. I did not come to see Jonathan because my heart had softened. I came because I wanted to see how desperate and regretful he looked after being diagnosed with a terminal illness. What a pity. Even if this man died, it would not be unjust. Jonathan stood there stunned for a long time, then showed a bitter smile. "You're right. From beginning to end, the one I liked was Nicole. How could I possibly waver? No matter how much you resemble her, you are not her in the end. I want to go down and see her clean and spotless. Then hurry up and die. Every second you spend talking to me is contaminating you. If you get dirty, Nicole won't want you anymore." After saying that, I pulled out a document and had Jonathan sign it. When we got engaged, both families contributed a dowry and a bride price. My parents gave very little for the dowry, and in the end Nicole pitted me and added a lot of money to it. Now the problem was with that portion of the money. Jonathan was unwilling to return it. After Jonathan finished reading the document, he instinctively tightened his grip on the pen. "Olivia, have you thought this through? If I sign, that means there will never be any possibility left between us." It felt as if I had just heard the biggest joke in the world. Just as I was about to speak, my nose suddenly stung, and warm blood gushed out. "Olivia, what's wrong with you? Why are you bleeding so much? Weren't you always in good health?" I could not speak. Drop by drop, the blood from my nose collected on the table like a leaking faucet that would never stop. I wanted to take out my phone and call for help, but the screen was so slippery with blood that I could not use it at all, and the waiter was nowhere to be seen. In the very last second before I lost consciousness, I realized Jonathan had already gotten up and left, running toward the opposite side of the street. The woman waiting for the light to change on the other side of the street was Nicole. Chapter 16. Nicole wasn't dead. I fainted from excessive blood loss, and it was a very long time before a waiter called an ambulance and had me taken to the hospital. An ordinary hospital could not find the exact problem. They only told me that my test results were abnormal and that I needed further examination. The system said the terminal illness would flare up 3 times in total. The first nosebleed happened during the argument with Gabriel. The second was now, and the third would be death. When I woke up, the only person by my side was Victor's assistant. He said Victor was very worried about me, but had urgent matters he could not step away from, and had told the doctors they absolutely had to cure me and that nothing could go wrong. He is your brother. He will definitely protect his little sister. So you should also take care of your health and not make your brother sad. After hearing that, I burst out laughing. Ever since Victor overheard part of the plot, he had treasured me like his life depended on it, terrified that if I got even a bruise or a bump, I would drag him to death with me too. Now something this serious had happened, and he still did not come. He must have been in a hurry to go see fake Nicole, right? That's right, the real Nicole had long since been burned to ashes. The woman Jonathan had met was named Lily. She looked a lot like her, but she was not her. And yet, everyone immediately accepted her existence and treated her as if Nicole had returned, as though they had simply forgotten the past. My parents brought her home and acknowledged her as their goddaughter. Gabriel drove back overnight from another city, bringing financial reports and company documents with reddened eyes. He said that over the years he had guarded the company well, and as for Jonathan, he refused to return that portion of the dowry money to me. He said that money had belonged to Nicole in the first place, and that he was merely returning it to its rightful owner. Chapter 17. Jonathan came to negotiate with me of his own accord, bringing Lily with him. Not only would he refuse to sign my document, he also wanted me to sign a property transfer agreement and transfer the money into Lily's name. Ah, so this is Olivia you've all been talking about? Lily smiled and shook my hand. Even though Nicole would never smile like that, Jonathan still looked at her in fascination, convinced that she was the woman he loved. Let's get acquainted. From now on, I'll be your older sister. Jonathan is about to become your brother-in-law. He proposed to me. He. I froze for a second, then slowly clasped Lily's hand in return. Then, with my other hand, I grabbed the coffee cup and smashed it hard into Jonathan's face. You really are a master at finding stand-ins. Is Nicole's money some kind of family heirloom to you? When your great-grandson gets married someday, are you going to say his bride looks like Nicole and ask me to transfer the property too? The coffee wiped the smile off Jonathan's face, and the cup also hit him hard enough to make his nose start bleeding on the spot, terrifying everyone. Lily alone slowly smiled. Chapter 18. Lily. The moment I thought about that name, I knew it was the system. She said she had entered the story at this point because she was afraid I would regret my decision. In the few hours before I appeared, Jonathan's affection for Nicole had dropped to 50, while his affection for you had risen to 88. I was afraid you'd get fooled by a scumbag, so I appeared to provoke you. But Jonathan is such trash. He thinks the angrier you are, the more you love him. Now his affection level is maxed out. He's completely fallen for you. According to the data, 85% of tragic romance wives endure and back down once the white moonlight returns, and quietly wait to die. Of those, 99% slap the white moonlight first, achieve a moral victory in their head, talk as if they've come to their senses, and then still quietly wait to die. And of those, another 65% end up, after the male lead falls for them before they die, saying, "I wish you and the woman you don't love eternal happiness," and use their own death to make the man regret it for the rest of his life. You're not that kind of love-brained wife, are you? No way, right? It took me a long time to accept this absurd news. I did not even know how to begin mocking that bastard Jonathan. If I had not gotten a terminal illness and been close to death, he never would have fallen for me, would he? Lily scooped up spoonful after spoonful of the bird's nest soup my parents had sent her to nourish her body and fed it to me, asking what I wanted next. Since Jonathan has fallen for me, let him find out that I also have a terminal illness. I want to see how he tries to atone to me. Lily nodded obediently and switched to feeding me a bowl of fish maw soup. I found it strange. Didn't you say you were a bonus gift that Nicole passed you on after completing her mission? Why are your services this attentive? Lily poked at the fish maw with the spoon and did not really want to answer that question. Chapter 19. I had no overlap at all with the hospital where Jonathan was being treated, so Lily secretly slipped my medical records to Jonathan's doctor, allowing him to discover the truth by accident. But Jonathan still had not found out when my terminal illness flared up for the third time. This time, I really am going to leave. The day it happened was supposed to be the shareholders' meeting when Gabriel came to pick me up from home. He told me not to be nervous and calmly handed me a cup of coffee. Drink it, you'll feel a little better. But there was an excessive dose of sleeping pills in it. I am allergic to sleeping pills. After the emergency rescue, I lay on the bed with my consciousness drifting, unable to move or open my eyes, hearing only the endless sound of people crying. The loudest one crying was Mom. She said she had never meant to kill me. She had only listened to Gabriel and put the medicine in the coffee to make me sleep for a while, so I would not disturb Lily's return today to inherit the company. So Gabriel had lied to me once again. Victor was grieving too. I was about to die, and he would not be able to live much longer either. Before losing consciousness, he told the whole family the secret he had overheard, terrifying everyone. Dad knelt in front of my bed and told the doctors to save me at any cost. He said he would be willing even if it meant losing the entire family fortune. As she cried, Mom carefully took my hand and asked in a low voice, "You only tied Victor's life to yours, not anyone else's, right? Come to think of it, Victor isn't even our biological son. He's not part of this family anymore. We'll cut ties with him immediately." Dad suddenly raised his hand and slapped Mom across the face. With all his rage having nowhere to go, he backhanded her again. At the end of the day, this is all your fault. Back then, you were too greedy. After climbing into my bed, you still wanted to climb into other men's beds. And in the end you got pregnant with twins. It would have been one thing if Olivia and Nicole were the same. But instead the difference between those sisters was so huge. Nicole, that clever little genius, was the daughter I should have had. Olivia is as stupid as a pig. She must have been polluted by some other man. How could I not despise her? But thinking about it now, both of them were obviously my precious daughters. So this was the reason why I had been hated by the whole family since the day I was born? How absurd. And that brat Victor too, a bully who picks on the weak and throws his weight around because he has backing. How dare an adopted son bully my precious daughter? It's all his fault. Dad paced around the room in a panic. In the end, he found a fox plushie and stuffed it into my arms, making me hold it tightly. "Daughter, this is the doll you wanted most when you were little. Daddy wouldn't buy one for your sister. Only for you. The whole family bullied you, but Daddy loves you the most. Be good." How ironic. Those scenes in novels where the whole family suddenly wakes up after the heroine gets a terminal illness are all fake. How could there ever be such a thing in this world as a sudden awakening of conscience? Repentance out of nowhere? Only when their own interests are affected are they forced to repent and apologize. At this moment, my parents finally realized it. Their lives and deaths were firmly tied to my hands. But no matter how much they tried to please me now, it was already useless. Chapter 20. On the third day of being kept alive by machines, I suddenly woke up. The sunlight outside the window was warm, and my body felt comfortable too. Gabriel somehow managed to get past the bodyguards and run into my hospital room. The gentleness that once filled his eyes had long since been replaced by indifference. He said to me, "Why are you out of bed? Lie back down. Don't make me worry. Are you telling the truth or lying?" Gabriel froze for a moment, then forced out a fake smile. "When it comes to you, I've never said a single false word." He helped me lie back down on the bed, set up a small table for me, and slowly began talking about the company. He took out several thick stacks of documents for me to look at. "You seem to be in good spirits today. Want to take a look at these projects? I've already reviewed all the contracts. If there's no problem, just sign them directly." I skimmed through them carelessly. Among the papers were several pages of an equity transfer agreement, and the beneficiary was Lily. Under Gabriel's gaze, I signed my name stroke by stroke and stamped them with my personal seal. Gabriel was very satisfied, thinking that I had noticed nothing. After signing, I looked at him with pity. "Ever since the day we met, you've lied to me countless times. Haven't you? Gabriel instinctively pushed up his glasses and said I was tired and should rest peacefully. Since that was the case, I would not spoil things for him. I'd just let him go on lying until one day he suddenly dropped dead. I had already arranged a way for every scumbag to die. Gabriel was full of lies and loved treating me like a fool, so I would let him keep lying. Every time he lied to me, he would have to give away one day of his lifespan to people in the world who needed it. If one person needed it, he would give one day. If 10,000 people needed it, he would give 10,000 days. Ever since the system appeared, Gabriel had already sacrificed several years of his lifespan for me. He really was such a great philanthropist. Chapter 21. On the afternoon of my final burst of strength before death, Victor woke up too. He asked me, "Your death is near, isn't it?" There was an indescribable calmness in his voice. I sat by his bed, peeling an apple and eating it, and even asked him if he wanted a piece. The system said that if everyone had loved me a little more, or even just treated me like a normal person, this book would never have developed into a tragedy, and I wouldn't have died. Victor silently shed a few tears and said bitterly, "I really never hated you, Olivia. When I first came to this family, I just did whatever Mom and Dad did. I had to be obedient if I wanted to be their son. Later, I couldn't control my emotions anymore either. But I really never hated you, Olivia. Every time you made porridge or baked a cake, I ate it. When you were locked up, I even brought you chocolate. Your brother was just never good at expressing himself. I hid all my love in my heart." As he spoke, he shakily picked up a thermos container and handed it to me. Inside was hot water and rice that he had poured in himself. He was in such a hurry that he dropped it straight onto the floor, then humbly clutched at my pant leg and begged me, "How did you always make your porridge? Teach me, okay? And teach me how to love you too, all right? Brother will give you half his life. Tell the system to let us live on properly." Expressionless, I twisted open the lid and poured everything over Victor's head. And in doing so, I completely ended his life. Back then, when my classmates bullied me, he had stood above me in exactly the same way, then dumped a bucket of cold water over me, laughing and mocking me. Now, I was returning it all to him. Chapter 22. I can no longer remember how I left in the end. In the end, it was actually Jonathan who stayed in the hospital room watching as they tried to save me. His ashen face looked even more like that of a dead person than mine. While the doctors were trying to save me, he knelt on the floor and kowtowed to Lily over and over again. He said, could she take all of his life and let me live instead? If he had 1 day left, then give me that 1 day. If he had 1 year left, then give me that 1 year. The system could do anything, so there had to be some other way. Lily held my soul with one hand while using the other to fiercely lift Jonathan's chin. Do you know what the cheapest thing in the world is? Love that comes too late. You love her? Then what were you doing all that time before? Only regretting it after she's dead? Even dogs wouldn't want that. Amid Jonathan's desperate sobs, my death was declared. At the very same moment, a major car accident occurred in the suburbs. Gabriel had gone with my parents to visit graves, and the truck driven by one of his own relatives crashed straight into them and sent them flying. Neither the perpetrator nor the victims were left with an intact body. Overnight, the only living thing left in his family was the dog they kept. Oh, his retribution had arrived. Chapter 23. Lily was taking my soul to the central shelter, and on the way, I saw my parents. They were sitting back to back at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. When they heard the news of my death, their lips turned white with fright, and they no longer had the strength to walk inside and file for divorce. They had thought that Victor was not their biological son, so the shared fate bond should not fall on them. That if they divorced, I would hate Mom but not Dad, and that in this way they could do everything possible to escape my revenge. The stupidity of the sight made me laugh out loud. They would never know. I had never asked the system to punish them. What satisfaction would there be in letting them die all at once? If you know there is a blade hanging above your head, yet never know when it will fall, and live every day trembling in fear and torment, that is the best punishment of all for them. As I laughed, I suddenly saw my younger self again. I saw 6-year-old me being locked up, curled beneath the desk and crying, when suddenly a piece of chocolate was tossed in through the window. Outside the window, Nicole, who was barely taller than I was, had actually climbed up to the third floor using a ladder. She had originally carried a lot of food on her back, but sadly her arms were too short, so she could not throw the rest of it in. The next day, I thought the chocolate was food the housekeeper had given me, so it had been her. A flash of white mist passed, and I saw my 16-year-old self again, chasing after Jonathan to talk to him, but Jonathan had just been rejected by Nicole, so he shoved me away hard and even cursed. "Shut up, fatty." I cried on the sports field for a very long time. Nicole, who had already gone home, slung her school bag over her shoulder and came back to get me, pretending she was just passing by after evening study hall. She shoved a lollipop into my mouth and coldly asked if I was leaving or not. At last, I saw the eve of my engagement at 26. Nicole had brought the drunken Victor home, and while she was at it, she drank the porridge I had made for him, then placed the empty bowl by his bedside. Mom and Dad are only giving this little as a dowry? They may have no shame, but I still do. If word gets out, does it make me, Nicole, look like I've fallen that low? She's still my blood-related younger sister getting married. After all, she had always been proud and sharp-tongued, leaving the whole family speechless. And after the 500,000 yuan dowry our parents had given, she added 2 more zeros to it. That was the best she could give me. So I was the heroine in a tragedy, and Nicole was the universally adored supporting female lead. When she was alive, I could not feel any love at all, and yet she had still done everything she could to warm me. Later, Nicole completed her mission, and the system asked her when she wanted to leave. Chapter 24. I could use the lifespan Jonathan donated and the lifespan Gabriel sacrificed, but I had to be resurrected under a new identity and could not disturb the normal order of the world. Before reviving me, the system asked whether, as Olivia, there was anything else I still wanted to do. I thought for a moment and asked it to stir up a gentle breeze and blow Nicole's favorite daisies to the front of her tombstone. In the future, I want to be buried beside her too. Let me greet her in advance. Oh, right. Nicole also left you a letter. Extra Chapter 01, Nicole's letter. You little fool. If you're reading this letter, it means you didn't die. So let me praise you a little. Thank you for awakening from the plot and saving yourself for once. This abusive story toward women is pretty disgusting. It needed me to be outrageously excellent just to highlight how ordinary you were. It wanted everyone to like me so they could use me to torment you. The one no one welcomed. In the end, after suffering every grievance, you became terminally ill up until your very last breath. No apology ever came. The moment you closed your eyes, everyone suddenly regretted everything and scrambled to say they loved you. Even the mistakes Mother made while she was pregnant were pinned onto you too. Isn't that ridiculous? But if you think about it carefully, when a story is determined to torture someone just for the sake of torture, why would it need any logical reason? There are too many girls like you who are born into unfairness and forced to endure far too many grievances. So they place their hopes in fantasy. They fantasize that after leaving this world full of bitterness and resentment, everyone will finally wake up to how good they were, and all the men and women who once bullied them will line up at their graves to repent. And the cruelest revenge they can imagine is no more than a man never marrying for the rest of his life. A hollow spiritual victory. It's rather laughable. Until the day the earth is destroyed, evil people still won't take the initiative to repent. So I thought about it thousands upon thousands of times, trying to save the you inside the story. I left my inheritance to you, left the system to you, and placed the sickle of revenge into your hands. Luckily, you didn't do something stupid like suffering yourself just to make everyone else whole. In the end, please remember this. The most important thing for a girl is not being liked, nor being especially smart or beautiful, but her self-respect and the courage to refuse to surrender in the face of hardship. Don't wither away slowly in the mud, waiting until people pity you before they remember to regret it. No matter what kind of soil you are born in, you must fight your way up through it. Make yourself strong enough, and force those who bullied you to kneel and apologize of their own accord. Chapter 02. Only after reading this letter did I realize that Nicole had exchanged all of her rewards to help me. That so-called bonus gift had only been an excuse made up by the system. Then, could Nicole still go home? No, she still has to go into the next story and complete another mission. And the role she got this time is pretty miserable. I hope she survives. I thought for a few seconds, then asked the system another question. Could I go help her? Chapter 03. After father died, he left all of his inheritance to my younger brother. So my stepmother wrapped up all her shabby belongings in a pink peony curtain and left the house. Even though she had served the family for 20 years, we still never treated her as one of our own. Not long after, she died of illness, because father had never taken her to register their marriage. No one took care of anything after she was cremated. In the blink of an eye, I arrived 20 years in the past. On the very day my stepmother first entered the house, and I saw young, beautiful Nicole again. She remembered nothing. She was timid and weak, and carefully tried to please me with a daisy in her hand. Calling me daughter, I smiled and took her hand. Don't be afraid. This time, it's my turn to save you.